Good afternoon and welcome to our webinar on the different financing options for both the Oxford Executive MBA and the Masters in Major Programme Management. My name is Jonathan Dover and I'm a recruitment manager for the Executive MBA. I'm joined today by my colleague Sarah Hayton, who's my counterpart for the Masters in Major Programme Management. Later on, we will be joined by Ayoola Alabi from Prodigy Finance, who will give us an introduction to their business and talk about how they can help finance your studies here at Oxford. Before we get started, a brief outline of what we will cover in this webinar. There'll be a brief introduction to both programs, including the fee structure, and that will be followed by a breakdown of the different funding options available and an in-depth look at Prodigy and our scholarships. There will then be plenty of time afterwards for your questions.
And I'm just going to add in a little bit about general housekeeping. So just to let you all know, if you haven't seen already, everybody apart from the presenters today are muted. And we're asking you, please do submit your questions and submit them at any time throughout the webinar, but do that by typing them into the question box that you can see as part of the GoToWebinar program. So you're muted just to save any kind of feedback or any issues with that. But we do really want to see your questions, and there will be time towards the end reserved for questions, apart from for our alumni. So for Barry, we'd love to have questions for him just after he speaks. So feel free to send through questions for him straight away. Just to confirm as well, we will be circulating the slides and the recording afterwards. So you'll see various URLs, web links that will come through, and we will make sure we circulate those slides so that you can just click through from them rather than having to write down lengthy URLs. The other thing that we'll both say, so from both myself and Johnny, if we haven't already spoken with you, we'd love to connect after this webinar on a one-to-one call and talk through any of your own kind of specific questions. If you've got questions about financing the program, or if you've got specific questions about the programs themselves, if you forget to ask something today, or just if you want to have a bit more in-depth conversation, please do get in touch with us afterwards. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. And also just to mention as well, as I should have done in my introduction, we will also be joined by Barry Frostick, who is an alumnus of the Masters in Major Programme Management. So you will have an opportunity to put your questions to him, as well as ourselves and Ayoola later on. So the Oxford Executive MBA is a part-time modular programme made up of 16 week-long modules over 21 months. So that works out at a week in Oxford out of every 5 or 6. The first half of the programme is made up of the core integrative modules, 2 of which are overseas, while the second half is made up of the elective modules, again 2 of which are delivered overseas. In terms of admissions criteria, we look for applicants to have at least 5 years of strategic management experience, and the average number of years work experience on our programme is 14. Our most recent class was 65 strong, with 40 different nationalities represented, and also 33 different industry sectors, which gives you an idea of the level of diversity on the programme. And Sarah's going to tell us, give us a brief overview of the Masters in Major Programme Management.
Yeah, so it's very similar for the MSc in Major Programme Management. Typical age range between 30 and 57 in the last cohort, 26 sectors and 30 nationalities represented. So a really broad, diverse and interesting cohort that you would be a part of. You may have seen already the admissions criteria. The basic admissions criteria for the MSc in Major Programme Management is a good first degree and at least 7 years work experience. I say at least with a slight tone in my voice, because I will add that this is very much a programme, an academic programme for people who are already working in programme management, and that's reflected by the average work experience of the group. So for the 2017 cohort, candidates had an average of 17 years work experience, and for the 2 cohorts before that, an average of 18 and 19 years work experience. So you can really get a feel for the type of people that you'd potentially be studying with, and get a sense of where you might fit in that. For the MSc specifically, candidates, we only ask for a good first degree, but candidates tend to come through with at least one other master's already behind them. So, and that might be an MBA or a specific industry master's, such as finance or engineering. Okay. So in terms of just running quickly before we get into the real kind of the real point of this webinar today in terms of specifics around financing, we thought we'd just run through some of the points that students have brought up previously, or alumni have mentioned in terms of why study an executive degree programme with Oxford. Clearly there's the personal development and career progression, and standing out, really distinguishing yourself by having an Oxford master's degree on your CV, whether you are an independent consultant or and going for business, whether you're thinking of changing roles over the next few years, or indeed whether you're thinking of bringing new skills and behaviours back into your current organisation. One thing that we're really proud of is the Oxford network. So you will potentially be in a class of around 60 people for the MSc in Major Programme Management, or around 70 people for the Executive MBA. But every year we intake around 750 new students across all of our business school programmes, so across the full-time MBA, our part-time executive diplomas and so forth. And those are a fantastic network to tap into, whether it's seeking out kind of advice and connections to grow your own business, whether it's seeking kind of support and advice, or indeed a new role for your own career progression, or whether it's perhaps linking up with MBA students and mentoring or something like that. With Oxford as well, of course, you have the additional college network. So we have access to 38 colleges here in Oxford. As a part-time business school student, there will be specific colleges that are really keen for you to join them and to be part of their community, and you'll learn more about that through the application process, and come to choosing a college or having us put you forward for a college when you're made an offer on the programme. So your programme application comes first and the college application handled by us will come after that. I should mention the modular format. So Jonathan touched on that for the Executive MBA. It's the same for the MSc in Major Programme Management. Both of these are absolutely designed for you to stay in work and complete study at the same time, which means not only do you not have to kind of leave your family and friends and move to another country, but the impact on your career is immediate. So you make those bonds through the new network, you have new skills and behaviours, and your organisation will see that payback straight away if they've chosen to sponsor you, for example. And we've put here long-term transformation. So what we would say is that these are very different programs compared to maybe a training course that you might do for a week to go for specific skills or specific accreditation. These are not just about gaining a new accreditation, new qualification on your CV. It's about a change in mindset and kind of positioning yourself for leadership or wherever it is that you want to go in your career. So I hope those are really helpful as you start to think about why you're spending that money.
So your investment, both in terms of time and money, the programme fee for the Executive MBA is $80,500. Now this covers your tuition and meals for the whole programme, your college membership, plus accommodation for the 2 core overseas modules. Now, in terms of the actual payment of the fee, this can actually be done in 3 stages. So 15% as a deposit to secure your place, then a further 50% 1 month before the start of the programme, and the remaining 35% 10 months after the start of the programme. In terms of time commitment, I think it's worth flagging as well as the financial aspect. Is outside the week-long modules, you should probably allow between 8 to 10 hours per week for both pre-reading and prep work for the executive MBA. So I think when you're thinking about the commitment involved, it's a question of both not only the financial commitment but also the time commitment as well.
And in terms of the MSc in Major Programme Management, so slightly, well, about half the time in terms of your commitment in coming to Oxford. So we have 8 modules of 4 days each over 18 months, which means you're coming to us for those 4 days approximately once every 8 to 10 weeks. So it's a 2-year-long commitment, a 2-year-long programme, but your modules will run over the first 18 months, and then the final 6 months you will be absolutely still studying and working, but writing your dissertation, which you can do from absolutely everywhere. And as we've sort of mentioned before, this setup is absolutely perfect if you're not based anywhere near the UK, really. So the majority of our participants are based outside of the UK, and a lot of people are travelling a lot for work and find that this modular format works very well as they're travelling and not entirely sure where they're going to be, but they know that they have specific classes in Oxford on certain dates, and those dates won't move. The programme fee for the MSc in Major Programme Management is just under 40,000 for the September 2018 intake. That includes all of your tuition, your lunches, your college fees. The main, as Jonathan touched on, the main additional cost to think about is accommodation and travel. So travelling to Oxford and the accommodation where you choose to really want to stay, what level of accommodation you want to be in Oxford. So whether that's hotels, B&B, Airbnb, that kind of thing, that we absolutely leave up to you. In terms of week by week commitment, we say around 10 hours of study per week outside of the time in Oxford, and that could be reading, writing your dissertation. One thing to add, there are no exams with the MSc in Major Programme Management, so you're assessed by 8 assignments, 1 for each of the modules, and then that dissertation at the end of the course. Okay.
There are essentially 3 main ways in which you can fund your studies. Around 70% of people on the Executive MBA opt to fund the programme themselves, which will often involve some kind of loan option. We work very closely with Prodigy Finance, and we will go into more detail on this option with Ayula shortly. Many applicants will also look to secure funding from their employer. And the recruitment team for both programs will be able to assist you in putting together your business case, and I'll be able to direct you to some pretty useful resources which you can use when you're having those conversations internally and putting that business case together. And thirdly, there are our scholarships, which we will be exploring the criteria for and how you can go about applying for towards the end of this webinar.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Johnny. Okay, so one thing, I've just seen a question come up asking if we are recording this webinar. So just to confirm, we are recording the webinar, and we will aim to circulate both the slides so that you can click on them and the recording so that you can hear what we are saying and the other panelists are saying in addition to the text and the slides. I hope that's useful. So on to our first couple of slides around loans. So loans, specifically on here, loans available for those based in the UK. Professional and career development loans. To apply, you must be a British citizen, have been living in the UK for at least 3 years before the academic course starts, and plan to work in the UK or European Union after the course. So I will just add the caveat. So we're bringing you information on some of the loans that we're aware of. Obviously, there are a whole range of them, and we're really just trying to give you a small overview of some of the ones that we know that our students have used in the past. So these are very much loans where you would go and do the work for yourself and come back to us and let us know what you've secured in terms of the funding. So this is one that we would advise people that meet that criteria that go and sort of look more into the professional and career development loan. And you can see the reference number for the school there that you will be asked for, 8518. For those based in the UK and EU, the UK Masters Loan, we are still waiting on eligibility criteria from the UK government. We know that this is something that was used in past years, so we're still waiting for detail on which programmes will be eligible, but that's something to keep an eye out for. And there are reference website links there on the slides for you that you'll be able to access, and you'll see right at the very bottom there as well the University of Oxford graduate page, graduate.ox.ac.uk/loans. So that's a really good page to go and access and just have a little bit more look into yourself as well, and see if there's anything there that's relevant to yourself that you might want to look a bit further into. Outside of the UK and EU, so a couple relevant to people in the US, the US private education loans. So I would say that Oxford will work with whichever lender that you choose. However, Sallie Mae is the only US lender we're aware of that is willing to lend to students at a foreign school, so at a school outside of the US. So for US private education loans, you may be actually eligible to borrow the full cost of attendance, so including travel and accommodation in some instances. And again, I would refer you to the University of Oxford website and a specific area of that. The next one down, so if your specific circumstance means that you are a veteran, there is actually a grant. There's a grant rather than a loan that you may be eligible for, so please do look into that further. And then we have the US federal student loans, and I should stress that this is for the MSc and major program management only at the moment, we believe, rather than that and the executive MBA. This loan facility is available to American citizens and permanent residents, and again, you may be eligible to borrow the full cost of attendance, including travel and accommodation. So I know that was a bit of a speedy run through, but it's really just to highlight some of the options that are available, and really would encourage you to go onto the University of Oxford website and explore this a bit further for yourselves. I'm now going to hand over to Ayula Alabi from Prodigy Finance. Many of our students use a loan from Prodigy Finance to fund their place on the programme, so we're really pleased to have Ayula here to talk about this facility in a little bit more detail. Thank you very much, Ayula.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks, Jonathan. Hi, everybody. Please let me know if you can't hear me, but I think you should be able to. Quick caveat before I start: I'm going to make this as short and sweet as possible. I've been sat here in silence for a while, and now drilling is threatening to start, so that's very annoying. But I suppose it's London life for you. So I work for Prodigy Finance, and essentially what we do is, for the last 10 years, we have been providing loans to students, both kind of British and also international, to fund their postgraduate studies. We've worked with Oxford for the last 6 years, and we have a very good relationship with everybody at Oxford, and we'd be really happy to have you on board. Great, thank you. So quick intro to exactly what it is that we do. As it sort of says on the tin there, we are the only student lender actually that focuses exclusively on international MBA, EMBA as well, and other business courses for postgraduate students. So we have offices our headquarters is in London, but we do also have offices in New York and in Cape Town as well. New York being a business development hub exclusively. And essentially we are able to fund loans from students who come from up to 150 different countries. At the minute we are around about 120 countries represented in our portfolio. So very, very positive. We're almost £500 million worth of loans that we funded since we started working 10 years ago. Everything that you need to know is on this slide with regards to eligibility and exactly why we believe that a Prodigy Finance loan is the best option for you. First and foremost, I'll just jump straight in. We don't ask for any co-signer, collateral or guarantee at all. What we believe is that you are truly good enough to get into a top program at a top institution, and so your potential for success after your studies is incredibly high, and we believe that you repaying your loan will therefore be no problem at all. So we are essentially assuming the risk there. In terms of the nitty-gritty bits that you need to know about eligibility, as long as you're admitted, you're essentially going to be eligible in this case. So because we are an FCA licensed institution and because we are a British company, it does mean that you don't have to be international to be eligible. Everybody pretty much that's listening will be eligible. And then the only other thing is that, of course, just like with any other loan, you just need to pass our cross-border credit assessment there. So our credit assessment there, which is uniquely sort of cross-border. The benefits I've covered some of these already, but another huge benefit is that we don't ask you to start repaying your loan immediately. You will have a 3-month grace period, which means that you do have the time to breathe and to really settle into your studies at Oxford. We understand it's a big step and we don't want to interfere super early on there. If you would, however, like to start repaying earlier than that, sooner than that, then that's absolutely fine. So there aren't any early repayment penalties or fees, and it means that quite often we do see people, making bulk payments if they're able to. And then the other benefit as well is that because we have been around for a very long time now, for 10 years, and because our student community and alumni community is growing by the year, you will be joining not only your network at Oxford in terms of the other people on either the EMBA or the MPM, but also your college network there. But on top of that, you will be joining the Prodigy Finance network. So I don't believe that you can ever be a member of too many high talent networks. So there you go. That's just another one that you can add to your list there. You do have a choice of currency, which is great. So you can either take your loan in pounds or in US dollars. It's totally up to you. It's up to you to essentially make the decision based on your financial circumstances when you're applying and obviously where you think you're going to sort of end up as well, potentially. The minimum loan size is either £10,000 or $15,000. You can apply for anywhere for anything up to 80% cost of tuition. So all of that will be outlined in our online application portal for you. So it's very, very easy. It should be easy for you to navigate there. We don't ask for anything up front with regards to an admin fee. That's fully amortized over the life of your loan, which is wonderful. It means you don't have to worry about that. And with regards to the rate, because obviously this is a loan, so that does come into play. So the rate that we will be assigning you, which is also known as the fixed part of your rate, is going to be between 5 and 7.5%. On top of that, you will need to consider the variable component as well. So the variable component will be LIBOR in whichever currency you choose to take your loan in. So either GBP LIBOR or USD LIBOR there. And yes, obviously take into consideration the amortized admin fee. So that what you need to be looking at is your APR essentially. And you can repay. We actually do have another option that we've added very, very recently. I believe we have a 15-year loan option as well. I will double check on that. But we definitely have either a 7 or 10-year loan option. So it's up to you to choose what you would like to do. Obviously, the longer the loan term, then the lower the monthly repayment there for you. And last but not least, and again, I'm around at the end if you would like to ask me any questions. I am just mindful of time and mindful of potential drilling that's going to happen behind me. But last but not least, all of your funds will be sent directly to Oxford. So we do have a great relationship with the team, and it means that they get they will be getting fortnightly updates throughout the summer, so they know exactly what loans to expect at the start of term. And once we do get to the start of term, we'll give you the chance to finalise the signing of your loan application form, which will either be done on campus or can be done in your home country. And then we will finalise the list, and it's very, very straightforward and easy. You don't have to do anything at all. That's then sent directly from our bank account to that of Saeed. And yeah, there we go. Then your tuition has been covered. The application process is entirely online as well. So I did allude to this on the previous slide, but it should actually everything should be very, very self-explanatory for you, and it should take you no more than 20 minutes to fill this out. This is great, I think, because it means that you're not going to spend hours of your life sort of going into meetings at banks, etc., or filling out endless forms. This is all one portal. And it should be very, very easy for you to do. In terms of the documents that we would like from you, we would like, in order to be able to verify your loan application there, we would like to see a credit report, and then your proof of admission, and any sort of proof of the finances that you've outlined on your initial application. So working through these chronologically, you've got that 20-minute application, which is point 1 there. That's all online, and we don't ask you for anything up front. We then assess you fairly instantaneously, and we get back to you with a provisional offer, usually within a couple of minutes of you submitting your initial application. And if not, it will take no longer than 5 working days for us to get back to you. Then we will ask you for those documents that I have outlined before in stage 3 there to verify your loan offer. Then we confirm everything with you, and you'll be given the chance to sign your loan agreement online. So everybody signs online. It will just be a question of whether or not you're able to do that immediately, or whether we have to wait for you to be on campus. It will depend on your jurisdiction there, where you're currently living. But that should, again, become very, very clear to you at the end of the loan process, and if not, you can always reach out to me. And point number 5 there, then that's what I was just referring to. We send your funds directly to Oxford. You do have that 3-month grace period, which is what we're referring to in point number 6, and then obviously you start repaying, which is point number 7. So it couldn't be easier. And yes, if you have any problems at all, I'm always available for you to reach out to me directly. These are my details. That's my face. That's my name, and that is my email address. So you can get in touch with me if needs be.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you so much, Ola, and I appreciate you kind of rattling through that. I think we've tried this before and realised then that we have far too much information for an hour. But I will keep going. Thank you very much. I understand you're happy to stay on the line, and we'll come back to you with some questions at the end. Is that okay?
Yes, that's totally fine.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, so I am going to rattle on to sponsorship from your organisation. In about 2 seconds, we will have Barry Frostic, who has studied and completed the MSc in Major Programme Management. So he will be talking through his own experience of this. So I just wanted to cover a couple of points on this slide ahead of that, but I won't go through this in much detail because his experience will be so much more valuable, I'm sure. So just to mention that previous candidates have told me that they've looked at various ways of sponsorship from their organisation. So obviously the extreme would be to have all of your fees covered and your accommodation and travel expenses, but also why not think about whether they will think about paying you back module by module. So although the school doesn't look at these as sort of separate modules, some students have been successful in securing sort of almost refunds back if they split the fees down into modules by module. So it would still mean you making the initial outlay. It's just a way to think about it with your employer. Also think about how much your time off is worth to you. So whether your employer will give you time off, paid time away to come to Oxford, maybe paid time away to look at your dissertation in the last month before you have to hand it in, or around pressure points for either program, whether it's an assignment or exam or what it is you're doing. If they're not able to give you any direct cash as such, can they give you kind of benefits around support with paid time away? Oxford side is a preferred education supplier. It's always worth, if you haven't thought of this already, just having a word with your learning and development or HR business partner about whether they have a list of preferred suppliers. If Oxford's not on there, please do get in touch with us. Potentially, I know there's sometimes restrictions about funding programs if the organisation isn't on a preferred supplier list. Myself, Johnny, or any of our colleagues, very happy to speak with the HR department or management team rather about the benefit of these specific programs, other programs we offer, and how these might be of value not only to yourselves but to your organisation, and make sure that that's all there and we're supporting you with any information you might need. In terms of seeking financial support from your organisation, building a business case, some of the tips we have include things like realising the benefit your dissertation could bring. So you obviously get to choose the topic of your dissertation, and several of the assignments on both programs you may find that you can make those of benefit or around an organisational challenge. But specifically with your dissertation, you could answer an organisational challenge or push your organisation forward in some way. So think about maybe selling that in as worth sponsorship in some way. We also really say do some kind of skills gap analysis where you currently fit in with your organisation, look at the different modules offered by the master's programmes and how they map across. And we would be very happy to assist in any kind of documentation, if we have case studies that are of use, or even if it's just sort of very specific information around the dates that we'll need you, the time commitment, and things like that. Please do get in contact. Okay, so and on that note, I know I rattled through that, so please, if you think there's anything there that needs clarifying, or if you would like a specific one-to-one conversation, again, please do get in contact with us, and our details will be on the slides when we circulate them. Now, I am really, really pleased to introduce Barry Frostick, who studied the MSc in Major Programme Management from 2015 to 2017, and really pleased to have him on the line now to be able to talk through his own experience. Barry, are you there?
Okay, I am. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks very much.
No problem. So thank you for letting me come and explain what I went through in order to try and get some sponsorship from the organisation. So I really want to cover off 4 areas. So first off, why the course I chose, then go through some detail about what was agreed in terms of funding and support from my organisation, the kind of more interesting section of how did I get that sold to my organisation and supported, and then a bit about actually some of the learnings I got from the course, which in turn did help prove some of the stuff that I said I would bring back to the organisation as part of the deal. So really for me, I mean, I was really keen to choose a course which I was passionate about and which was aligned to my career direction and aspirations, which again was lined up to where my organisation was looking to move forward in the time. So it was keen for me to pick a topic that was of interest. I wanted to make sure I had a recognised qualification within MPMM work, which is beyond what you would get from a Prince 2 qualification or other, I say, less challenging qualifications. So it was that was really important to me, and I think the other thing which was keen to me is this is 2 years of study, a significant amount of personal commitment, and for me to undertake a study and a master's, I wanted to go somewhere where it was significantly recognised and really kind of learn from the best, which is why I was choosing to study with Oxford rather than other universities. And that's not a sales pitch, that is just part of the rationale if I'm giving up 2 years of my life to study and improve myself. So that was why I chose the course. It was important to me. So what did I get agreement? So I was very fortunate. I got agreement for funding for the entirety of the course. I got agreement for the accommodation, for my travel, and also for my core course reading material, which is a small amount, but again, that was helpful. My organisation also recognised the need for study, and I was granted over the 2 years 8 weeks worth of study leave, in addition to any other existing leave or entitlements that I had within the organisation. So as a student, I only needed to fund for any non-core course materials and food whilst I was away at Oxford, which was only in the evenings because, as Sarah and others have mentioned, lunch is included. So I was very fortunate in terms of what was agreed. The only other piece that I needed to bear in mind is that any time outside of lectures was my personal time, and therefore the 10 hours that was mentioned earlier on the call was either Saturdays or Sundays or in the evenings if I had any time after finishing work. So that is what I had agreed, and in terms of how I kind of sold it or got the agreement from my organisation, I think first off, for me, it started in advance of applying for the course. There was an element of ensuring that I was going above and beyond at work, and I stood out from the crowd of people and therefore received a level of recognition from some of my directors, non-exec directors, around my capabilities to deliver for the organisation. So I think there was an element of trying to ensure that you are well known within the organisation, and that you're able to progress beyond where you are if you've got some further direction and support. So for me, that was the first part. It starts with getting trust and respect from some of your senior leaders and colleagues within the organisation, and ensuring that you've got those supports within my organisation. That came across from our commercial director, my direct line manager, and 2 executive directors that were able to plead my case and ensure that they could get the best deal that could be agreed to support me in my studies. What I promised as part of them funding the course, and I didn't exactly sell my soul, but I came close to offering quite a lot. I agreed that I would use all of the learning to improve all of our PPM capabilities within the organisation and bring that back to improve what we can do, so that we're using the latest thinking for various topics and modules. I offered and ran a number of what we call lunch and learn sessions, where after a module was taken, I was able to feed back to like-minded individuals around some of the topics and themes that I had learnt, in order so that they could then take some of that knowledge and start to spread that across the organisation. And I found that that was helpful not only to others within my organisation, but it was also helpful to me because it reinforced the learning that I had just undertaken on a previous week's worth of a module. I agreed to stay within the National Health Service for 2 years after completion of the course. So I'm still bound by that agreement. And if I leave the organisation before that period, I have agreed that I will pay back a proportionate amount of the cost for which they have funded. So that gave them a level of sense of, actually, if we do fund Barry to go on this course, one, we can get some benefits back, and two, we're not just going to lose him after he's finished his dissertation and he's gone off to bigger and better things. I have got a new job off the back of it, but that's still within the NHS. I think the last angle on there was actually being really clear that this aligned to my personal development plan, and every year within our organisation we have appraisals and appraisal processes, and obtaining a master's qualification had always been on my personal development plan, and therefore our HR department were supportive when the case went through our organisation. So really it was quite a hard sell to get that, and the organisation in effect were extremely supportive. It really helped that I had an executive director who had been on the course previously. He was on cohort 2, I was on cohort 7, and therefore he was able to help support me in building the case for investment. I think the last thing, just as a bit of evidence base that may be helpful to people that are looking for gaining sponsorship from their own organisation, is did I actually feed anything back that was of use from what I learned? And I've kind of jotted down 3 areas where I was, one, fortunate in terms of timing, which was around organisational design, which was our first module. It may not be now, because I know the course has been reshuffled in terms of its agenda for those modules. But I was able to come out of that course with a week's worth of learning, a raft of academic materials, and our own organisation was going through an organisational redesign, and I was able to apply the learning directly to define what our future target operating model would be for our directorate within the organisation, and that's been embedded and gone through successfully. So actually on the first module I was able to prove the benefit of the course back to my organisation, which was really, really helpful. There were 2 other areas which I managed to feed back directly. One was an item that we covered on from risk as one of the key modules, and a huge amount of that focus was about upfront understanding of investments and being able to better manage forecasting abilities. And we've applied some new methods within our own investment case approvals processes in order to make sure that we improve upon some of the topics that you would learn within those modules. The last one for me was surprisingly from finance, and a strong piece of work from what is termed as a meiotic machine, and I've actually implemented that successfully in my new role, where I'm able to get a level of transparency across our entire portfolio of around £4.2 billion, and make sure that people are having the right conversations about the right challenge points within each of the programs that we've got in that portfolio. And a lot of that learning came directly off of the course. So I think for me, there were 3 takeaways that are very strong in terms of the benefits case, which have easily paid for the course and got my company their return back on the investment that they've made for me. So I'll kind of pause there. I think that was broadly just over 10 minutes. But Sarah, is there anything else you feel I should cover off?
I was sort of grinning because you had answered a couple of questions that had come in while you were talking around kind of immediate benefits and I think there was one that we're reading around kind of any kind of quibbles or issues your organisation had when you were asking for the sponsorship, and in terms of kind of you committing to stay on for a couple of years and things like that. So I think you've pretty much answered everything. You've definitely answered everything that I thought that you were going to cover. That's absolutely fantastic. Okay. Thank you. I mean, are there any? I guess I should ask you. It's pretty obvious, so it's going to sound like I'm kind of setting you up to say this. But if you had to kind of having done this, if you had to go through this whole process again, particularly sort of applying for the MSc, and was this the right program? Are you pleased that you did it?
So I would say it was absolutely the right program for me. The other thing from a personal perspective that it's done is I entered into this MSc without going to university. I finished schooling. I managed to get some A-levels, but was in a financial position where I needed to work and was not able to continue on my studies. So from a personal perspective, being able to skip a degree and go straight to an MSc, one, it was challenging because I had a lot of learning to catch up on. It's given me the qualification that I would need to progress my career to a much higher level, but it's also given me the confidence to be able to argue points very clearly, but also be able to challenge others from a more if you like, academic research perspective around claims that they may well be making that aren't substantiated. So it's been absolutely the right course. Would I do it again? Yes, I would, without question. I'm older, I'm grayer, I lost some family time, but my goodness, it was worth it.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm gonna let you go there. If I would say if any other questions come through, I might connect people up with you if that's okay.
Absolutely fine.
Brilliant. That's really kind of you, and thank you so much for your time today.
No problem. Take care.
You too. Okay. So we're gonna rattle straight on to a quick bit of information about our scholarships for women. You can see all the pertinent information on this slide. The date I would bring to your attention if you are a female applicant to the MSc in Major Programme Management considering the 2018 intake is Monday the 11th of June. So that is the absolute final deadline. You will need to have your application in by the end of the day on Monday the 11th of June, which is next week, in order to be considered for the scholarship for women. It actually says on this slide one scholarship currently available. Hopefully you'll be pleased to know that that's incorrect, and there are now 2 scholarships available for this year, both worth 50% of the programme fee. And then for our Executive MBA, there are 2 different types of scholarship there. The Executive MBA Scholarship for Women in Association with the 30% Club, one for September, one for January, worth 50% of the programme fee, and the Forte Foundation Fellowships for Women, worth £15,000, and again, one for September and one for January. We're obviously now for the Executive MBA, we are looking at the January intake in terms of deadlines, and you will need to apply by Monday the 10th of September to be considered for one of those 2 scholarships for the Executive MBA January intake. We've now gone past the deadline for the September scholarships for the Executive MBA. And just a little bit of information about what that means. So you'd need to just do a couple more things if you are a female applicant wanting to be considered. So you need to note those deadlines and have your application in before or on that deadline. You also need to, within the online application form, you will need to tick the women's scholarship box in the funding section, so a simple tick box, and also submit a supporting statement alongside your programme application. I should note that uploading the supporting statement and ticking the box is absolutely useless if you haven't submitted your programme application. So the thing to really make sure that you're putting your focus on is the programme application. You will need to fast be awarded a place on either programme before you can be considered for a scholarship. But also you do have the opportunity to submit a supporting statement specifically for the scholarships, and there are some selection criteria on the website, and I believe within the online application form you'll find those links as well. Okay, so I'm conscious it's 10 to, but I'm just going to hand over to Jonathan now, who's going to run through some more scholarships.
Yeah, just very quickly. So in addition to the scholarships for women, there are some other awards which are available to Executive MBA students specifically. Firstly, the Oxford Alumni Scholarship, which equates to 50% of the programme fee, and that's available to all applicants who hold a degree from the University of Oxford. Our Director Scholarships, they can be worth up to £20,000 in terms of award size, and they are awarded on the merit of each individual application. Often they will be awarded to applicants from non-traditional backgrounds, and so to apply, you basically need to submit a supporting statement with your application explaining why you feel you should be considered for a scholarship, but also outlining the unique perspective that you feel that you could bring to the class. Our largest scholarship is aimed at applicants from the arts, culture and heritage sectors, and this, I should say, only applies to the September intake for the Executive MBA. So to qualify for the Linbury Scholarship, you need to be ordinarily resident in the UK, and you also need to be able to demonstrate a long-term commitment to the arts, culture and heritage sector. In terms of the process for that one, there is actually an essay that you need to submit. The essay question will be released closer to the time, and then there will be an interview with the Linbury Scholarship panel as well. But that's a new scholarship that's been introduced for the first time this year. Obviously, the deadline for the September intake this year has passed, so if you're interested in looking into that one, it would be September 2019 is the next date that you could apply for that one.
Okay, and a couple of notes on other funding sources. I would just say that this is our last formal slide, so if anybody has any questions, please do type them into the question box. If we run out of time today, we will come back to you by email or by phone with answers to your questions, so please do continue to put them in. A couple of other options, so other funding sources. I mentioned the University of Oxford postgraduate website pages earlier on, and we'll make sure that you have these links when we circulate the slides. So there are some external scholarships, so scholarships not managed or awarded by Saïd Business School, University of Oxford, but scholarships that we know of and that students have had perhaps in the past through that link. And other funding sources, so there is a manual alternative guide to postgraduate funding, and it's absolutely worth having a look through. It may be that you don't find anything, but we do know that there are specifically other options that are available to people in specific circumstances, so specific nationalities, specific educational or professional backgrounds, but too many of these for us to run through them on a case-by-case basis today. Okay, so in terms of questions, and just thinking, I know we still have Ayula on the line from Prodigy. Really pleased with the questions that have come through today. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming, for not only logging in today. Sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once and look at the questions at the same time. Thank you so much for coming through and logging onto the webinar today, but also submitting your questions. We've got a quick question for Ayula, if that's okay with you, just asking about the regions that you loan to. It's not just, I'm right in saying it's not just sort of UK and the US, is it? There are other regions that you loan to, is that correct?
Absolutely. So we can support applications from applicants from up to 150 different countries. So far in our portfolio, we've got around about 120 nationalities that are represented.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much. Oh, what a question for you, Jonathan, we have a question around the Executive MBA. How many applications? So what's the kind of submission acceptance rate for the Executive MBA?
Yeah, so that that will obviously vary from intake to intake, but to give you an example, from the most recent intake, which was January this year, so a class of 65 people, that was drawn from, in total, I think it was just over 140 completed applications. So that gives you a rough idea. Obviously, that will vary from year to year, but that should just to give people a rough idea of what to expect.
And for the MSc and Major Programme Management, we usually see around 110, 120 applications through, and we are looking for a class of between 50 and 60 people. What I would say that we do, that I don't know that how many other schools do this, so it's quite different from maybe applying for an MBA or something like that. We offer almost a kind of selection process here, where we'll have a really in detail one-to-one conversation with you to check that this is the right program for you at this time. So checking not just that you meet the admissions criteria, but that we can deliver on what you're looking for. We're very wary that not only does it take a lot of time to fill out the application form and get your referees involved, get your organisation involved, and you want to put that effort in knowing that this is the right program for you. There's also an application fee involved. So please do feel free, if you haven't already spoken to us, to get in contact and we can have that kind of conversation. So although the rejection rate might seem quite low, we do quite I think we do a kind of low level of a sort of conversation where someone would be guided towards the right program if they didn't meet the minimum requirements that we're looking for before they submit. Okay.
Yeah, one other one that's come in. Someone's asking whether it's possible to apply for more than one EMBA scholarship. The answer to that is yes, it is. Although it is highly unlikely that you would be awarded more than one, because they are pretty competitive, as you can imagine. But clearly there will be situations where you as an applicant may meet the criteria for more than one scholarship, and you're absolutely more than welcome to apply for more than one.
And then a last question, I think, looking at the time, a question for Prodigy Finance. Is there an option for early repayment, and is there a penalty for it? Ayula, may I pass that one to you?
Yes, thank you. So yes, you can repay early. There's absolutely no penalties or fees for doing so. So if that's something that's right for your circumstances, just get in touch and we'll be happy to process that payment.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And our laptop's also 1 minute to 3, so I think this is a good time to close it. Thank you very much, Ayula. Thank you very much, everyone who has logged on and participated today. Thank you very much again to Barry Frostick. That was fantastic. And to say again, please do get in touch with any other questions that you might have.
Yeah, and just to reiterate that, particularly in relation to the business case element, if there's anything you're not sure about from the slides today, or anything that you'd like to follow up on or elaborate on, we here at the recruitment team for both programs are more than happy to help and sort of bounce some ideas around. So do get in touch about that, or indeed any of the other stuff that we've covered today.
Fantastic. And just another quick reminder, we probably won't be circulating the slides tomorrow, but within the next few days we will be circulating the slides and the video. So we will absolutely be in touch. Thank you very much.